Students, in my last video I have described the Cobb-Douglas production function and the constant returns to scale, that is alpha plus beta is equal to 1, and the isoquants will be equidistant. That means the 1 unit increase in the total of capital and labor will result in 1 unit increase in the output. But it was found in the initial studies that there is constant return to scale, and the constant returns to scale was found mainly in agricultural sector. But later on it was found that the summation of alpha and beta can be greater than 1 and less than 1 also. So, when the summation of alpha and beta is greater than 1, there will be increasing returns to scale, and you can see that the isoquants on this graph will be closer and closer as you will move rightward on this figure. You can see the distance from distance of 100 to 200 unit of isoquant is greater than the distance of 200 and the 300 unit of isoquant. Here on the y axis is capital, units of capital, and on the x axis there is units of labor. Similarly, when there is the summation of alpha and beta, that are exponents of labor and capital respectively, when this is less than 1, there will be decreasing returns to scale, and the distance from distance of the isoquants will be greater and greater as you will move from left to right. Here is 100 units of isoquant, this is 200 units of isoquant, this is 300 units of isoquant, and this is 400 units of isoquant. You can see that greater amount of capital and labor combination is required to have 1 unit of your output. Okay. So, in this figure, when there was increasing returns to scale, the distance was decreasing because 1 unit of output was able to attain with fewer amount of capital capital and labor inputs, but in the decreasing returns to scale, the productivity of the capital and labor is reduced, and a higher combination of the factor inputs, that is capital and labor, is required to achieve 1 unit of output. You can also write it like this. In this figure you have isoquant, and here you have TP curve or the total product curve. On the y axis you have quantity produced, and on the x axis you have all factors. When you have constant returns to scale, the distance you can see is equal on both the axis. Okay. But when you have increasing returns to scale, the distance of output goes higher and higher with the same amount, same increment in the factors of production, right, and the slope of this TP curve will be steep. Okay, this is TP curve, this line is TP curve, and the slope of it will be higher. On the contrary, when you have decreasing returns to scale, and this is your TP curve, this one, you will have relatively a TP curve which have which don't have a steep slope, rather it has a more like horizontal inclination, and the distance on the y axis will be less and less, and it means that more of the factor input is required to have 1 unit increment in the output. You can see this here is Q1 and Q2, you can get leaving 1 unit in the middle of the factor inputs. Okay. So, at second combination of factor inputs, you get 1.5 unit of output. So, this is the decreasing returns to scale. I hope you understood, and in the examination the question may be formulate as if the alpha and summation of alpha and beta is greater than 1, what will the isoquants curve will be closer and closer as it moves rightward. Okay. So, if it is greater than 1, the summation, if it is greater than 1, the isoquants will be closer and closer as you move from left to the right. And on the contrary, if there is decreasing returns to scale or the summation of alpha and beta is less than 1, the isoquants will be, the distance between the isoquants will be wider and wider as you move from left to the right. Okay. So, I hope you understood the different figures in different situations of the or different values of alpha and beta. Thank you so much, and please subscribe my channel.